Joining me today is Kathaar, a new face onto the scene. Over the past 6 months, he's been struggling through the desert on a quest to defeat Telos on his region-locked hardcore Iron Man. In his 6 months so far, he's had a joyous time getting smithing to a level where he could actually train it by completing the tourist trap to get access to the mine. To do that, he's spent more time on the Anima Island minigame than anyone with any sanity would ever do. In this first part of a two-part interview, we'll discuss his time over the years playing Runescape, his hopes for Archaeology, and much, much more. So join me as I head into the mind of Kathaar.
Ugly baby has been achieved. Let's get out of here.
Welcome, Kathaar. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Thank you for spending some time coming on with me, having a chat about how you got into RuneScape and all of your Desert Iron Man needs and, struggles, I suppose.
Yeah, of course. No, I was super excited to be here. I've been waiting for this. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, well, let's start with the classic opening question. How did you get into RuneScape?
Oh God, it's kind of funny. It has nothing to do with RuneScape at first. So way back in 2004, I had a new neighbor moving across the street, and he came over one day and showed me this game called what was it called? Adventure Quest. This old Flash game.
Yep.
And so he showed me it, and he's like, "Oh, this is great. I have this other game that I played, but I don't think your computer can run it because my computer can't run it. It takes like 20 minutes to load." And so we tried it out, and it was RuneScape. And not only did it load in like 5 minutes on my computer, but I was instantly hooked. So for the most part, that's how I got introduced to it. I know a lot of people get introduced to like Miniclip and stuff like that, but no, for me, my neighbor just happened to throw it in my face one day, and it's just been a love-hate relationship ever since.
Imagine if games took 5 minutes to load nowadays.
I know. Oh God, no! But I actually went to his house one day, and it kids you not, took 20 minutes to load RuneScape. It was ridiculous. And don't even get me started on when you tried to play Ultima Online.
So you kept playing like from there? You had breaks from the game? What's the
Everyone's kind of got their little like month, 2 month hiatuses, but for me, not really. There wasn't really any huge breaks where it's like, oh, I didn't play for a year, so it's been pretty consistent for those 15, almost 16 years at this point. Yeah, because I started like the end of 2004. The closest thing was that my main account, the same main account I use now, was actually stolen from me for about a year and a half. And so I didn't have access to that account for that entire time, and I was playing like an alt, but that was like the closest thing to a hiatus I had.
So how did you get it back after a year and a half? That seems like at that point you'd have given
Blind
up.
luck.
Yeah?
Blind luck. It got stolen and then used for botting, or no, scamming, because the levels didn't change all that much, and then it got banned. So I had to repeal the ban and prove that I was the owner of the account, and I just happened to get through because I had tried it a couple of times, and finally it just kicked over, and they're like, you got your account back, your new password's plugged in, and there we go. I had a completely empty bank. But I had my account back. It was great. I spent the first double experience weekend to ever come out on RuneScape mining coal to try and make money because I was broke.
Oh dear.
It was awesome. It was not how I wanted to spend that weekend, that's for sure. But I had absolutely nothing. So free mining experience. Why not?
So over the 15 years, have you got a favorite like period of playing the game?
A favorite period. It's probably like 2005, 2006. I don't know. It was before God Wars. It was before PvP started introducing a lot of one-hit mechanics. It was before Dragon Claws. It was before a lot of things. And I think, but mainly all that aside, because even all of that, it's not like I'm a big PvPer. I never was. But back then there was just a different approach. The internet was new, it was young, you didn't have guides to everything. Nobody knew how to do anything the most efficient way, so they just did what they thought worked. And as such, you kind of had a lot of people doing all kinds of there were people everywhere. Every piece of content you had at least somebody who was doing it. However ridiculous it was. It was wasting bronze arrows at those what enemies? There are enemies at like the Jolly Boar Inn. Just killing enemies in the Jolly Boar Inn, training range there. Who does that? You know?
Just felt
It was
very
great.
populated and people everywhere.
Yeah, everybody was it was a learning experience for everybody, and I miss that period of time. You can never get it back, not with the way the internet works now, because everyone's going to be looking for a means to okay, how do I do this the best way possible, you know, instead of just winging it or experimenting. But that's how it is.
So where did the username come from? Kathaar.
The username actually it came from Diablo 2. I had borrowed a copy of Diablo 2 from a friend of mine because I watched him play it a lot and I wanted to play it. And so I finally convinced him to let me borrow it. And the username was not actually my idea. My mom decided to start playing Diablo 2 and she created a necromancer named Kathaar. And then never really used it again. She played it like 1 or 2 days and put it down. And when I decided to create a new account, because fun fact that this account is the second account. You can get into that later if you want. I named it Kathaar, and I have just used that for everything ever since.
And it's just stuck. It happens, isn't it? Everyone, like, the first account they make for some game or something online is basically their name for eternity now.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just it was a clean name. It was rarely taken, so I didn't need to include any numbers or symbols in it. It looked kind of like it would be somebody's name in like a medieval fantasy period.
Yep.
So I liked it. I just liked the really clean look of it, and so that's why it stuck to everything I do. My YouTube account, Twitch, anything. If you find somebody named Kathaar out there, there's a good chance it's me. Very good chance.
So what would you say keeps you playing RuneScape and has done for these 15 years?
And there's always a goal. I mean, I only just maxed. I haven't even been maxed a year yet, and I'm about to lose that cape in a couple weeks. So there was always something to work towards. I'm really slow when it comes to progressing. And so, for me, there's always content available. There's always something to do. And I think there's also a level of addiction there that we don't really want to admit, but we all kind of have.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to something for 15 years, you grow attached to it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Even if you try to go play like another, at least for me anyway, you could try to play another MMO, and you're just, man, I just kind of want to play RuneScape now. And so I always get pushed back to it. It's my go-to MMO, and I don't think I could play any other one really at this point. It's been too long, and there's a very specific style to play in RuneScape that you don't see anywhere else, and it just fills that gap for me.
And it's also the amount of knowledge and stuff you've got built up over that time that suddenly if you move to a new MMO, you have to learn all of that over again. Like a similar thing for me and League. Like I got into League and I've never touched any of the other MOBAs because there'd be so much to learn. It's like, nah.
Oh yeah, no, same here. I dabble in League, mainly because I used to play it a lot. A few years back. I think when I stopped playing, I can never remember his name. Jack, the green glob. He was the newest character.
Zach. Yeah.
Zach. There we go. Yeah, so it's been a minute. I don't even have my account isn't even a high enough level to enter ranked matches. So, but it was the same thing. I was playing League. I didn't really have an interest in playing any other MOBA because League covered it really. And why start over? So I understand that mentality sticks. That's it to a T.
So you recently maxed. What was your first 99, and then also what was that final maxing moment?
Well, anybody who knows me or watches the channel could probably take a wild guess. The first 99 and the favorite 99 was fire making, and not for the reason everyone else does it. I because I was dumb. I spent a stupid amount of money getting this skill to 99 because I was impatient. I spent 30 mil back when a green Halloween mask was 30 mil. I sold a green mask to buy 99 fire making to do, I think it was like 94 or 95 fire making to 99 with magic logs. But yeah, fire making was my first 99, and the reason I did it was because I absolutely loved the emote. It looked really cool. You were just bouncing a fireball in your hand. I thought the concept was really cool, and so I wanted the cape. And so it's just kind of stuck as my favorite skill.
Yep.
And so it was also my first 99. And then my last 99, which also doesn't make any sense, was cooking. I did everything else. Agility, thieving, dungeoneering, all those skills people don't want to do.
Yeah, rune crafting, construction.
All of it. And then I put off cooking till the last minute. And I think the only reason it was my last 99 is because it's like, I could get that 99 in like a day because I had it like 94 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, I could do that whenever I want. It'd be easy. So I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off because getting the max cape was never really a goal. It would just be, I would get a skill into the high 90s and go, I could get this to 99. I might as well just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would, and then I'd move on to the next skill. And eventually, like a year later, I'd repeat the process. Like, I've got a couple of these skills that are almost 99. Let me just knock those out. And cooking was it was never a skill I wanted to train. So it just ended up being last.
So have you got a favorite boss?
It's kind of a weird one.
Much into PVM?
Yes and no. Like, fun fact, I've never actually fought Telos in my life. But, or Solak, or, no, I've just those two. I think it's just those two that I've never fought. But, Hellweir. I actually like soloing Hellweir. For some reason, I think there's just something very satisfying about healing 6,000 health off of a resonance switch when he cleaves.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone keeps telling me, they're like, just do Vindicta. It's the same thing. And I can do Vindicta. I don't like it as much. I like soloing Hellweir. So if I have to say a favorite boss, it would be Hellweir because for some reason it's the easiest for me. Second place would probably be Barrows. I've always liked the Barrows ever since they were added to the game. And so I just kind of like them for lore's sake. I like the theme around them, not necessarily the mechanics, because let's face it, they're not exactly exciting to fight.
No. What about Rots?
I did a lot of Rots for a brief period of time where someone was teaching me how to do it, and I'm just gonna say it right now, I sucked. I got carried. It was a 3-man team playing Rots, and my sorry ass getting carried through. Pardon my French. But I mean, I did pick up, like, I got like 50 kills, and I did manage to figure it out, but it was a really slow process. And I was also very broke at the time. I think I was using like I remember getting so much heat for it. I was using Superior Morrigan's and the Javelins. Superior Morrigan's Javelin and like an offhand Shadow Glaive. My team was looking at me like, are you stupid? It was like, I'm sorry, it's all I can afford. It's cheaper than Serenic. It's cheaper than Noxbow. Get off my back. I can't do anything else. So, but I do enjoy Rots. I like the concept. They're enjoyable. I'm just not very good at it.
Yeah. And moving on from a favorite boss, what about a favorite NPC, be it a quest or an event?
I'll hit those separately.
Okay.
Favorite NPC, it's got to be Guthix, and so I always liked the concept before the gods even got brought into the before the gods even got brought onto Gielinor in the start of the Sixth Age. I really enjoyed the concept of everything needs to have a balance to it. There's a level of good and bad that everything has to have. I liked that concept, so I always liked Guthix, and so of course, in terms of like an event or a quest, I actually like the World Wakes because you finally get to meet him
Yeah.
and get a better understanding of how he thinks and operates. And I thought that was kind of cool. And then what was the other one? Oh, an event. Totally unrelated, but I was a big fan of World Event 2, the Bird and the Beast, because it turned. Were you there for that?
I
Did you
wasn't.
get
No,
to participate?
I played for like 6 months in 2006, and then I didn't come back until January last year.
Oh, you have
So
missed a
I've
lot.
missed quite a lot. Yeah. So go on,
That's
sell
cool.
it to me.
Okay, so the entirety of the Falador Barbarian Village Draenor area
Yep.
was PvP. They
Okay.
turned PvP on. Now you could opt out if you wanted to, but if you opted out, you couldn't participate in the event that was happening. And so what it was a faction event. You either sided with Armadillo or you sided with Bandos, and you had to capture like these domination points that were spread throughout this PvP area. And you could set up different nodes there. Some were for gathering resources, some were for buffing caravans, and the caravans were a thing you kind of had to protect running around. It's far back enough now that it's kind of a blur. I'm fudging a lot of the details, but the base concept is that it was just it was all out war all day.
Yeah.
And
a constant
I
struggle
sided. Yes,
for
exactly.
position.
And
Yeah.
I sided with Bandos, who nobody else sided with. So our faction was outnumbered like 10-1 constantly.
Yeah.
And this was during a period of time in EOC where it was still relatively young.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't perfectly balanced. And things like we didn't have invention yet, but we did have divination. And so portents of restoration were a thing, but they also didn't have a cooldown. So they would proc every single time your health dropped below 50%. And so I wore full Virtus with a Virtus wand and a Spirit Shield, which reduces your damage, the damage you take by 30% at the cost of some prayer points. So I'd run that with the Penance Aura, which would recover your prayer points based on percentage of damage you take. So that would kind of help. And then,
Yeah.
use like renewal potions and some prayer pots and an inventory full of these portents of restoration. And I could tank and win fights 5 versus 1. They couldn't hurt me. Nobody could hurt me. And I would just slowly pick away at one guy, move to the next, kill everybody there, take the location, because we never had any backup. Every once in a while, I'd have like 1 or 2 people come help me with this. But for the most part, it was just me running around capturing these objectives. And it was just the most fun. I sank so many hours into the game at that period of time. I couldn't do anything else. And it's not like it was very good experience or the rewards were all that great. But oh my God, it was so much fun. And I really want them to bring that back in some way, some caliber.
Some form of actual world event again, because when was the last one? It's been years, right?
The last one, was it Tuska or was it Marimbo and Nebraska Prime? Either way, it was a few years ago. Because both the Anima Islands minigame and the Cabbage Face Punch Bonanza minigame, which come from those events, have been around for a few years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been a minute.
So if we look forwards now into a couple of weeks' time, what are you expecting and hoping for from Archaeology?
Oh, well, I mean, for one, I hope to reasonably be able to train it on my desert locked account. That would be great. The main thing is that I saw on Twitter that they showed a snapshot of the mini map for Everlight, which is the location out in the swamp out in Mauritania. And one of the things that caught my eye is that there were fishing locations that weren't previously there and agility shortcuts. And so that got me thinking, okay, they're not afraid to add resource nodes that aren't related to archaeology in these sites. And if you watch my series, mining and smithing is kind of a pain in the neck. And so I'm kind of hoping that Karid Et might introduce ores or mining locations that I didn't previously have access to, like Runite or Luminite or even something like Dark Animica or something, to open up my options. I'm not holding my breath, but it would be nice. So that's one of the big things I'm looking forward to for Archaeology. Outside of that, I am really excited to see on my main account what all these locations look like, what kind of relics you get a hold of, what the skill offers to the rest of the game, and what modern 2020 uh character models, or not character models, models, world models, textures.
Graphics, yeah.
Yeah, exactly what they're willing to pump in, because this is supposed to be their best of the best.
Mm.
And I can't wait to see what that looks like.
So, is there one thing you would change about the current state of RS3?
I think if I had to say, I'd probably go with a level of listening to the community a little bit more, sort of kind of like what old school does. I don't be afraid to pull things. I mean, we don't it's I don't want the game to be run off polls like old school does, because I've got a problem with that. I really do think that players having almost complete control over how the game is developed leads to a lot of issues, and we've seen that. Now, thankfully, the old school team has gone around and remedied that, and they're not afraid to put the brakes on something if it gets to a point where it's like, no, this is we don't care if you voted for this. This is too much. But I kind of want to see a middle ground on RuneScape 3 where we're getting polled about, some of the specifics on updates. I don't want to be pulled on a whole update like, oh, what's the next skill going to be? Is it going to be warding? Is it going to be archaeology? Is it going to be necromancy? I don't want something like that. But hey, what do you think about this, or this in the upcoming skill or in an upcoming quest, yada, 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 so that the devs don't feel like they're locked out of what they
Yeah.
can and can't do, but we still have a bit of feedback in what's going in beforehand instead of after the fact. So in terms of something I'd like to see RS3 change, is that it's just more communication with community, and letting the community feel like they have a little bit of say in what's going on more than they currently do.
Yeah. So you've touched quite nicely on the next point.
Oh,
which is it's good. So do you play old school much, or?
I do. I mostly just AFK it on mobile while I'm at work, because I can't really do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I play it. I've got a fire cape. It was a cluster. It took me 7 hours, but I sort of play it. I will eventually start playing it more and more when I get the time. But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I play a little bit.
So, and you touched on, obviously, RS3 could learn maybe a bit about the polling system. Do you think there's anything else that it could learn from old school, or also the other way around?
It's almost the exact same thing. Old school could learn a little bit from RS3 to just not be afraid to introduce new stuff. I mean, now I'm not going to say warding was the perfect skill. It really wasn't, and I don't have a whole lot of say in the matter anyway, because it was when they were doing the warding thing, I was barely touching old school. I didn't have an understanding of how the economy worked. I didn't have an understanding of a lot of things, so it wasn't really my say to go, yeah, this is a great idea. But it got voted down. It didn't meet the criteria. And so as a skill as a whole, it's just not going to happen. And I feel like at a certain point, the old school team needs to go, look, we're going to do this whether you like it or not, because we have to. Now, we'll give you some options on some of the finer points to the skill, but in the end, you're getting it. So it is essentially the same thing. The RuneScape 3 needs a little bit more community involvement, and I think old school might need to dial it back a little bit.
It's literally
And I could
finding
be
that balance.
completely
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah, exactly. It's all about finding a balance, and I feel like both games are on opposite ends of that balance.
Which is so
currently
weird, considering it's the same company behind both of them.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and I guess it just has something to do with old school gets a little more free reign what they have to do, and I feel like the execs and the upper crust just kind of have a little bit more control over what RS3 can, or what the RS3 devs can and cannot do, and you just don't see it on old school because, well, it's working, and they probably don't want to mess that up.